Hi. How many of you have experience hearing teachers say, look at this class roll? If I didn't have so many students, then I could spend more time doing instruction. I wouldn't have any discipline problems. My student expectations would be greater. I would be able to form relationships with my students. Many of you heard you. I've heard that. How do you feel when you hear that? Do you feel frustrated? Do you feel as if, I don't know what else to do? I have done all that I can do. This master schedule was here when I got here. And if you were there, you say, based upon the information that we had when we did the master schedule, this was the class size. I don't have any control over that. If those are the feelings that you have, I totally get you. And I'm going to share some things with you during my time with you together as we work together today. As a new principal, I was assigned to a school of 1,000 students, and it was in a building that was designed to serve 600. So when teachers complained about their class size, I understood it, but it was really nothing that I could do. I actually found myself negotiating with the teachers because it was an elementary campus, and they wanted the boy to girl ratio, that they wanted that in balance, and some of them had large classes, and we couldn't figure out where to put an extra 2 students or 3 students. And of course your master teacher would say, send them on over here, I'll take care of them. you know there's a debate right now. There is a debate. There are 2 schools of thought about class size. And the first debate is that if I have small classes, that means that I can have a one-on-one instruction with my students. I can establish relationships with my students. You won't have discipline problems when you have a small class. And the other school of thought is when I have large classes, that means that I'm going to have problems with resources. I'm going to have problems with time management. And I'm not going to have enough space to put all those folks. I get you. I understand it. That's what we face in education. So, my name is Barbara Polk. I'm known as a turnaround principal, and I've served small classes and I've done big classes. So, what we're going to dig into today, we're going to dig into ways to deal with a large class sizes, or small class sizes. So, the title of what we're going to talk about today is, does class size really matter? Does it really matter? I had an assignment to one of the lowest performing schools in the state of Texas, and it was one of the lowest performing schools in my district. And I found out that looking at all of our data, that all of the scores were low, but especially in science and mathematics. So I looked at the mathematics department and I said, well, I have in this area, I have 3 developing teachers they're pedaling as fast as they can. They're doing the best they can. I had a permanent substitute teacher and I had a master teacher. Now, those developing teachers, once the doors were closed, they would get it done, but we had a sense of urgency. We had to get that school turned around within that school year. Did that sound crazy? Absolutely, it did. But that was the directive. We want to pull this school out of low performing, and we want it done in a year's time. So once we decided that we had a vision, everybody understood that we were going to get these students pulled up. They were going to increase their growth by 1.5 years, and we were going to do what it took to get it done. So what I decided to do, I decided to figure out a way to take all of those students and have them in an environment where they would get the best instruction. And the only way I could figure to do that is to have the master teacher to teach them all. So we brought all 150 of those students into the cafeteria. Now, once we got into the cafeteria, they were divided into sections, into groups. The teachers, the developing teachers, were the ones who were going to be the facilitators. The master teacher was going to do the direct instruction. She was going to have her screen, and the permanent substitute teacher would be there as well. Among the groups, we would have those kids who needed one-on-one instruction. We needed those. We needed a group like that. We needed a group where we could have blended instruction. We needed a group where we could have our excelling students to work in those cooperative groups. Now that we had that layout, let's see just how the instruction was going to go. So as the master teacher was teaching, and by the way, those developing teachers were learning from her. That was almost like direct mentorship. This is how you teach the instruction. This is how you manage the environment. So once that master teacher did that direct instruction, then it was time for the students to have their independent practice. So as the teachers were facilitating, as those students that were in blended instruction were working on their assignment, those students in blended instruction, they were looking at a video of the instruction that the teacher had already recorded, or they were looking at Khan Academy, or they were looking at something that was produced by the textbook publisher that will go over those particular standards. And then we had a self-paced group. Of course, you're going to have a self-paced group, because within those groups, we had all types of learning abilities. We have those students who have to have 504 accommodations. We have those special ed accommodations. We have our English language learners. So within that group, we had to make sure that all of those things were taken care of. So as we circulated throughout the group, we did mastery-based grading. So when a student who is struggling gets 2 items right out of 10, we were there to support them, to say, that's okay, you got 2. That's a wonderful thing. Let's see if we can get 3, 4, 5, and 6, because that's going to be your mastery level. For our high achievers, 10, we expect them to get them all right, because we were wanting 100% from our excelling students. And then what we did, because we have students who sit at the back of the classroom. They have the hoodie on their head. You don't bother them. They don't bother you. And when it comes test time, they go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And then when we get the results, we look and we say, what happened? But we were able to bring those students into our groups. And when we bring those students into our groups, when they do well, all of a sudden they're sitting up. They're taking that hoodie down. Now they understand just what's going on, and they're not under a big spotlight. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for you to not know the first time that something is taught. And then we celebrated. I mean, we did chants, we did dances, anything to show that there was learning going on in that situation. Our excelling students went from uh, uh, group to group to assist those students. Our teachers were learning. Our permanent substitute was just doing a fantastic job. Well, we continued to do that. And once the test scores did come in that year, we found that 90% of our children had met the standard or at least had 1 year of growth. So we were out. We were out of low performing. What a celebration. But let's look at what actually happened. So here you are today. You have heard the story. So you say, how can I take that story and apply it to what's happening to me right now? The first thing that happened was a mindset shift. We knew that we were overwhelmed. We knew that we had students who were behind. It is not new that students are behind. It's not new. Our students in our urban schools and our students in our rural schools, we know they're behind. We know they need something extra. And if we don't change our mindset about how we are going to adjust for them, then they will not succeed. So we had a mindset shift. We decided that we were going to do something different in order to get our students to where they needed to be. So the next thing is that our teachers have to be in an environment, principal, where they can be vulnerable, where they can let you know through your instructional coach or as you are visiting their classes that there are some areas in instruction that they need help with. If you have that kind of environment, you will find that even with your developing teachers, you will start to see an increase in student success. They're going to have to feel comfortable enough knowing that if they are having problems with student discipline or classroom management, that there will be somebody there who can help them. Not just walk away, not just say, oh, did you hear what's going on down in 202? I don't know where'd they get her from. I thought she knew her stuff. Well, yeah, she knows the content, but she doesn't know student management, classroom management. The vulnerability has to be there. And we principals have to be there to support them. You know that it takes 1 to 5 years to develop a teacher. So have that environment. That's why we had the success, because we had an environment where we were vulnerable. The teachers were vulnerable. They let us know when they were having problems. When we went into classrooms, we saw that they were having problems. You don't just walk into the classroom, do your 10-minute walkthrough, and then walk and shake your head. It has to be an environment where teachers know that they can get help. And the third thing that made our situation exceptional is that the teachers were vested. You have to have an environment where teachers say, we're going to do this. We're going to do whatever it takes to get this done. We're in an environment right now where we're preparing for state exams. Some people have thrown their hands up and they said, I just don't know what else to do with them. Well, I tell you, principals, we're going to have to find a way. You hear teachers saying, Dr. Pope, these children are not like the children before the pandemic. These are different children. These are different children. And guess what? You're right. You're right. They're different. We're different. We can't resort to the same old thing. But as far as principles of education are concerned, the principles haven't changed. Your mindset, that principle has not changed. You're having teachers to be vulnerable, having an environment where they can be vulnerable and let you know what's going on, and you providing the support. That hasn't changed. Teachers being vested in helping students. That hasn't changed. That principle hasn't changed. If you're in an urban school or a rural school, you knew what you signed up for. You knew that these students needed help. They needed help before the pandemic. You know they need help now. And those are the things that it took to turn our school around. Those are the things that we looked at when we talked about class size. So, does class size really matter? Principals, if you have teachers who just cannot teach unless it's a small class, they believe that class size matters. If you have teachers who are in your building and they are telling you, we're just going to have to work with what we have, we're going to have to do some things differently, then yes, class size does matter to them as well. So if you ask the question, does class size really matter? The answer is yes. Class size does matter. It really does matter. But along with the class size being important, you have to have a powerful mindset. You have to have a culture of vulnerability. And you have to have an environment where teachers are vested into the vision of that school. So my challenge to you today is to answer the question, does class size really matter to you? So I want you to join our Principals on the Come Up, our Facebook group, where we discuss issues like this every week, or we provide what we just did, free training on ways for you to improve your instruction in your urban school, in your school of color, in your rural schools, where we are Principals on the Come Up, where we transform schools into hallelujah success stories. We'll see you next time.